Hello and welcome to Weekly News Highlights. Let's begin with the keywords that made headlines this week. Continuing his nationwide investment drive, President Lee Jae-myung pledged to make South Korea's central region a key engine for high-tech industries. Fueled by booming demand for memory chips, South Korea's exports climbed past the $100 billion mark for the first time ever in June. A series of new economic measures took effect on July 1st, including round-the-clock weekday foreign exchange trading and expanded incentives to boost regional investment. The heads of Samsung and SK have unveiled massive investment plans focused on semiconductors and AI, drawing praise from President Lee Jae-myung, who called them national heroes. Yoon Jung-min has the details.
Driving a leap forward towards a global industrial powerhouse amid fierce global competition. That was a key pledge by President Lee Jae-myung in a national briefing on Monday for the unveiling of what the government labeled as 3 mega projects.
오직 속도전만이 살 길입니다. 어떤 나라보다 빠른 속도로 인공지능의 핵심 요소를 확보해야 합니다. 반도체, 피지컬 AI, 인공지능 데이터 센터가 대도약을 위한 삼각축입니다.
Another focus was taking a global chip rally, which is driven by AI, as an opportunity to create a growth engine nationwide outside the capital, Seoul. Samsung Group made an investment pledge of a total of over 2.6 quadrillion won, worth over 1.7 trillion US dollars. The chip giant plans region-specific investments, such as advanced packaging in the central region, humanoid robots and batteries in the southeast, as well as chips in Gwangju and the southwest.
We consider Gwangju as a candidate site as we expect a lot of incentives there, including electricity and water supplies, workforce, and various infrastructure.
SK Group announced an investment worth 1 quadrillion won in a project to build AI data centers and 1.1 quadrillion won in AI memory production, respectively.
We plan to build AI data centers with a combined power capacity of 15 gigawatts in each region. We also plan to build a new chip cluster by investing 400 trillion won in the southwest.
Che added that SK will move up the date to build a chip production line in the city of Yongin. The president hailed the 2 men as national heroes and promised full support for corporate investments.
또 어려운 결단을 해주신 점에 대해서 우리 국민들을 대표해서 제가 인사 한번 드리도록 하겠습니다.
In line with the blueprints, the authorities also announced their support measures for a chip cluster roadmap centered on the country's southwest and central region, swift transition to AI robots in manufacturing, and large-scale investments for AI data centers. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
As a follow-up to the unveiling of massive AI and semiconductor investment plans, President Lee Jae-myung visited the country's central region to promote another round of regional development projects. He pledged to transform the area into a major high-tech hub.
Speaking in the central Chungcheongdo province region on Thursday as a follow-up to the mega projects announcement earlier this week, President Lee Jae-myung defined 4 technologies: chips, displays, secondary batteries, and biotechnology as core national strategic industries that will determine the future of Korea.
그리고 이러한 4대 첨단 산업이 하나의 권역 안에 모여서 강력한 생태계를 이루고 있는 지역이 바로 이곳 충청입니다. 특히 삼성의 결정에 따라 이루어진 HBM 생산을 통해서 첨단 산업 중심지로서 충청의 위상은 더욱 강화될 것입니다.
During Thursday's announcement of regional investment plans, companies committed a combined 392 trillion won, about 253 billion US dollars in investments. Samsung will invest in next-generation displays and HBM fabs, SK in NAND flash, and Celltrion in biopharmaceuticals.
We are at a pivotal moment as the global economic landscape undergoes profound change. Samsung will devote its full strength to helping our nation make a great leap forward as a global leader in next-generation industries.
Hailing the decision as a path leading to a leap forward in the country's high-tech industry, the president and his cabinet promised full support, such as financing, tax incentives, and deregulation.
We plan to create special subsidies for new growth engines worth hundreds of billions of won every year and significantly ease a number of complex regulations.
On Thursday, President Lee once again refuted criticism from the opposition, which has raised the issue of discrimination against other regions over the selection of the investment sites, saying that the projects should not be approached in a divisive manner.
이게 선물 나눠주는 게 아닙니다. 여기 한 개, 여기 한 개, 뭐 이렇게 하면 기업 운영을 할 수가 없어요. 그런데 이거 왜 나눠주지 않냐 이렇게 접근하면 안 되죠.
He added that it's the role of the government to support private firms so that they can choose sites they see as appropriate for investment. Lee once again noted that there was neither coercion nor pressure in seeking corporate investment, calling the accusation by the opposition outdated. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Korean tech titans Samsung and SK Group have sent shockwaves through the industry with massive investment plans. Together, they're pledging over $3 trillion, showcasing their ambitious plans to redraw Korea's industrial map. And for a closer look at their decisions, our business correspondent Park Jun joins me in the studio. Welcome, Junan.
It's great to be back, Sujin.
All right, so let's dive right into this. So, Junan, a figure of more than $3 trillion is hard to imagine. So, can you break down the figure for us as well as investment plans?
Right, Sujin. So it is the largest single industrial investment plan in Korea's tech history. The number 4,755 trillion won is equivalent to about 6.5 years worth of Korea's 2026 national budget. Just to clarify, the $3 trillion plan includes investments already committed to projects such as the semiconductor mega cluster in Gyeonggi-do province, which has been underway for several years. Excluding those existing commitments, the new investment, as per the ministry, comes to around 1.46 quadrillion won, or roughly $940 billion. Samsung plans to inject 2,655 trillion won into the country by 2040. SK Group will invest 2,100 trillion won to build AI data centers and an AI memory production belt. What makes this mega project stand out is it's shipped away from the Seoul metropolitan area. For decades, the heart of Korea's semiconductor power has been concentrated right around the capital region. But these regions are facing a critical bottleneck. They are rapidly reaching their limits in securing stable electricity and ample water supplies, both of which are essential for semiconductor manufacturing. That's why the two groups are pouring 825 trillion won into Korea's southwest region, specifically targeting cities like Gwangju to establish a second semiconductor mega cluster. Samsung will build a brand new fabrication plant there, marking its first ever core chip production line outside the capital area, while SK hynix will also set up a major production base right alongside it.
Now let's talk about the technology. So how does Samsung and SK's capacity to build world-class memory chips fit into this multi-trillion-dollar investment blueprint?
Right, Sujin. So Samsung and SK hynix are the world's two leading memory chip makers, producing advanced memory semiconductors such as HBM, DRAM, and NAND flash. Many mega-cap tech companies, including NVIDIA, Google, Apple, and Amazon, are lining up to secure advanced memory chips produced by Samsung and SK hynix. Here's NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang during his visit to Korea last month, explaining why even doubling memory production would still not be enough to meet AI demand.
I don't think that's enough, but we have to be smart. NVIDIA will use all the memory that SK can produce for us as smartly as we can. So Vera Rubin is built with technology from Korea. Memory technology, incredible memory technology, unheard of amazing memory technology here from Korea.
As global leaders in memory chips, much of Samsung and SK hynix investment will go toward building semiconductor clusters and AI data centers, where they have a global edge. This capital also secures their leadership in the upcoming era of fourth-generation physical AI, where artificial intelligence moves into real world through advanced robotics and autonomous vehicles.
So you mentioned that new fabs are going to build outside this whole metropolitan region. Is there a strategic reason behind choosing this particular location? What kind of effects will we see in the local economy from this?
Right, Sujin. So the strategic reason basically comes down to resources and physical limits. By moving to regions like the Southwest, these tech giants hope to secure a long-term supply of these vital utilities to keep their factories running without interruption. However, viewers may have to keep in mind that the blueprint is still in its very early stages, with major hurdles ahead, including securing exact factory sites, checking ground stability, and solving potential water supply issues before anything is set in stone. If construction proceeds as planned, the new factories are expected to generate significant economic benefits for local communities. When a major semiconductor plant moves in, it never comes alone. It brings a huge ecosystem of equipment suppliers, material manufacturers, and research centers along with it. This naturally leads to creation of thousands of high-paying quality jobs. It gives young, talented engineers a solid reason to stay in their hometowns instead of migrating to the capital, which has been a chronic social issue here in Korea. Ultimately, this investment is not just about building factories. It is about building sustainable regional tech hubs that can revitalize local communities and bring much-needed balance to the nation's industrial landscape.
All right, Chan, thank you so much for your detailed explanation for this.
Always a pleasure, Sujin.
From reforming the UN to reshaping global development, candidates in the race to become the next United Nations Secretary General are beginning to lay out their visions for the future. Our Oh Soo-young sat down with one of them at this year's Jeju Forum.
Rebuilding trust in the United Nations in a fragmented world requires reform and also a new approach to development. That's the message from former Senegalese President Macky Sall, who is seeking to become the next UN Secretary General. In an interview with Arirang TV on the sidelines of the Jeju Forum, Sall stressed the urgency of reform for the world's largest platform for multilateral cooperation.
We're living in a fragmented world where trust has greatly diminished and where consensus has become difficult to achieve. And this has greatly weakened the United Nations. The Security Council, for example, which is responsible for peace and security in the world, is having difficulty finding consensus on the majority of crises.
Sall says reform must happen on two levels, inside the United Nations itself and among member states.
As Secretary General, one of the first missions will be to implement this reform on two levels. First, at the level of the Secretariat and of the United Nations itself. How can we optimize its functioning? How can we also rationalize its resources and its missions? The second level is with the member states.
On development, Sall says official development assistance has reached its limit. Africa's population now stands at 1.5 billion and is expected to reach 2.5 billion by 2050.
The challenges this creates for development, access to drinking water, access to electricity, financing for development, employment for young people and their education must be placed at the center of global concerns.
He says the UN should bring together governments, international lenders and the private sector to create jobs and reduce migration pressures. Sall says Korea offers a concrete example of what development can achieve.
Korea showed that underdevelopment is not inevitable. It went from receiving aid to becoming a donor country, a member of the OECD and the G20. The Korean example can inspire the world, particularly African countries. As president of Senegal, I worked extensively with Korea on economic cooperation, in the maritime sector, in the military and security fields, in agriculture, rice production, and in healthcare.
The next UN Secretary General is expected to take office in January 2027 and faces the challenge of restoring confidence in multilateral cooperation at a time of deepening mistrust and global divisions. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Jeju.
Consumer prices in South Korea continued to rise in June, pushing annual inflation to a 30-month high and keeping it above 3% for the second consecutive month. Our Baek Ju-hee has the latest figures.
Korea's consumer prices rose at the fastest pace in 2.5 years in June, according to the Ministry of Data and Statistics on Thursday. The Consumer Price Index rose 3.2% year-on-year last month, marking the largest growth since December 2023. Headline inflation has now stayed above the 3% mark since a 3.1% gain was recorded in May. The sharp acceleration was predominantly fueled by petroleum products due to soaring global oil prices caused by ongoing geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. The price of petroleum products spiked 24.7% from a year earlier, the largest increase since July 2022. The price of gasoline and diesel jumped 23.1% and 33.7% respectively, driving up overall industry product prices by 4.4%. As our international crude prices have started to drop, domestic petroleum costs are also going down gradually. However, it may take a couple of weeks for the consumers to fully experience a change.
To be honest, I can't really feel it yet. I remember prices going up a lot, but I don't think I felt the drop too much yet. I think I'll start to feel the difference if it goes down to around 1,500 won.
However, the rally could have been steeper if not for state intervention. According to the Ministry of Finance and Economy, a government-imposed price ceiling on petroleum products, implemented since mid-March, shaved approximately 0.4 percentage points off the June inflation rate. Without this cap, the consumer price growth would have peaked at 3.6% last month.
Domestic petroleum prices are expected to decrease this month in tandem with the reduction in the price ceiling. Consequently, unless there are major fluctuations in other sectors, we anticipate a decline in the overall consumer price index as well.
The government expects inflationary pressures to ease starting this month, factoring in recent drops in international oil prices and subsequent adjustment to the domestic price cap. Moving into the second half of the year, the government aims to cap inflation below the 3% range by deploying an economic stabilization package worth 1 trillion won, or approximately $643 million. Prime Minister Han Sung-suk emphasized on Thursday that the top priority must be placed on managing consumer prices to ease the burden on the public amid the prolonged conflict in the Middle East. Baek Ju-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea's exports surpassed the $100 billion mark in June for the first time ever, setting a new record and becoming just the fourth country in the world to reach the milestone. Yoo Ji-yeon reports.
Korea's June export hit a new all-time high, topping $100 billion for the first time. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Resources said Wednesday that June exports surged roughly 71% from a year earlier to $102.25 billion. That makes Korea only the fourth country to record more than $100 billion in exports in a single month, after Germany, China, and the United States. Exports increased in 18 of the 20 major categories in June, with semiconductor leading the overall growth. Semiconductor exports surged roughly 200% from a year earlier to $44.8 billion. Beating the previous record set in May, monthly chip exports topped $40 billion for the first time. Strong demand for memory chips pushed up contract prices, helping fuel Korea's export surge. Experts say the key question now is whether those high prices can hold.
There's a plenty of chance that the memory prices will stay high level until the end of 2026. And in that case, I think export value will stay very high throughout 2026.
The strong momentum has raised hopes that Korea's annual exports could reach $1 trillion this year, with the government expressing optimism about the target.
We see a much stronger chance of reaching the $1 trillion milestone now than we did back in May. Exports tend to gather more momentum in the second half of the year than the first, which underpins our positive outlook.
Meanwhile, imports rose 30% from a year earlier, but Korea still posted a record trade surplus of more than $30 billion in June. Still, the government warned that uncertainties remain, including chip price movements, volatility in global oil markets, and growing protectionist measures. Officials said they will work closely with key trading partners to reduce risk for Korean exporters and help remain a stable export environment. 이주연, Arirang News.
A series of new economic measures is taking effect in the second half of the year aimed at making South Korea's financial markets more competitive while supporting regional investment and growth.
Starting July 1st, Korea's interbank foreign exchange market will operate 24 hours a day on weekdays. This will allow global investors and domestic firms to trade currencies in real time and immediately hedge financial risks. The Finance Ministry says this is part of the roadmap to joining the MSCI Developed Markets Index. The local stock market is also tightening rules to weed out penny stocks trading under 1,000 won or 65 US cents. This cleanup aims to remove weak companies vulnerable to unfair trading, such as stock price manipulation, while boosting the market's overall credibility. Currently, 210 companies, which account for about 7% of all listed stocks, fall into this category, with 141 listed on the Kosdaq. Under the new criteria, a stock under 1,000 won for 30 consecutive trading days will be flagged as an administrative issue. It faces automatic delisting if it fails to stay above the threshold for 45 consecutive days within the 90-day grace period. Furthermore, the government will select regional growth engine industries in the fourth quarter. Moving away from scattered individual incentives, the government will provide an all-in-one package integrating subsidies, R&D, and infrastructure. Investing companies can receive a subsidy covering up to 25% of their corporate investment alongside low-interest loans. Plus, young employees at these firms will get up to a 90% income tax exemption for 5 years, as well as housing support near industrial complexes. From sharpening market competitiveness to household living cost, the second half policies aim to reshape Korea's economic landscape. 백주희, Arirang News.
Beyond the economic measures, from discounted movie tickets to expanded family leave and easier access to government services, a range of new policies is set to make everyday life a little more convenient for people in South Korea. Park Chae-ryung reports.
One of the most notable measures is the government's support for cultural consumption among the public. In July, 4.5 million movie ticket discount coupons, each worth 6,000 won, will be distributed on a first-come, first-served basis. Each person can receive up to 2 coupons, which can be used at major theater chains, including CGV, Lotte Cinema, Megabox, CineQ, and independent cinemas. Mom and dad will be able to take more days off for their children. Starting August, workers will be allowed to take 1 or 2 weeks of paid parental leave once a year when short-term care is needed for children aged 8 or younger, such as when a child is sick or when daycare centers or schools are closed. Support measures for male workers will also be expanded in September. The new system allows male workers to take up to 5 days off when their wives go through a miscarriage or stillbirth. The booking period for train tickets will also be expanded. The government said the reservation period for train tickets will be extended to 2 months before departure. Until now, train tickets could only be booked 1 month in advance, unlike flights and accommodation which are usually available for reservation around 2 months ahead of time. The government said the change reflects public inconvenience over the shorter booking window for train travel. The government will upgrade the AI-powered search function on Government 24, allowing users to ask questions in everyday language even if they do not know the exact administrative terms. The system will identify the user's intent and provide personalized information based on user data and conversation details from among some 20,000 civil service and benefit programs available on Government 24. Park Chae-ryung, Arirang News.
As South Korea's construction sites become increasingly multilingual, artificial intelligence is helping bridge language barriers and improve workplace safety. Kim Jin-ho shows us how.
It's 7 in the morning and some 700 workers gather at this construction site in Seoul for the day's safety briefing. As the safety manager speaks into the microphone, his words simultaneously appear on screens in Korean, Chinese, and Vietnamese. Making this all possible is an AI translator.
There was a lot I couldn't understand in Korean, Now AI translates everything into my native language, so it's much easier to work. It's accurate, and my coworkers like it too.
At this construction site, 40% of the workers are foreign nationals. As more come from overseas, Korean builders are using artificial intelligence to make communication easier. Co-developed by Lotte Group's construction and IT services units, this translator supports 20 languages and even understands construction jargon and on-site slang. By scanning a QR code, workers can select their language and instantly access translations on their phones. The technology speeds up communication, making the work process more efficient.
I supervise Chinese workers on site. It used to take more than 20 minutes to relay instructions because I had to translate everything myself. Now everyone reads the translations, so it takes less than 5 minutes.
The system emerged as an alternative to general-purpose translation tools, which often fail to recognize construction jargon or maintain accuracy in noisy environments. This in turn enables clearer communication in an environment where safety comes first.
There are a lot of noisy and hazardous operations here. The better workers understand our safety instructions, the safer everyone is.
Built on speech-to-text technology, the system keeps getting smarter.
We trained the AI on 300 hours of on-site audio, including background noise. We then built a terminology database to help it recognize construction-specific expressions.
As construction sites become more multilingual, artificial intelligence is becoming a safety solution that benefits both builders and workers. Kim Jun-ong, Arirang News. That brings us to the end of Weekly News Highlights. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your weekend.